Is everyone ready? Okay, I'd like to call the special meeting to order of June 11th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alan here. Darnell.
Here.
DePalma.
Here.
Cordella.
Here.
Marshall.
Yes.
Rumble.
Absent. Here. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So
Are there any questions on the agenda? I have a motion by trustee Marshall,
Second.
seconded by trustee Cordella. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously to approve the agenda as presented. Okay, so now we will take citizens' comments on agenda items, 3 minutes per person. And I also was sent emails of letters to read during this comment period. So we'll go ahead and let them speak out here if you'd like to. Please state your name and the township in which you live, if you're willing.
Do you want me to go to the podium or?
Wherever you feel more, well, let's see.
They
Are
have here.
you filming just the board? So maybe it'd be better if you
Yeah,
go up there.
yeah, I'll film the podium too.
Get you on film.
Diane Burley, I reside in Brandon Township. I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said over and over and over again. I know everything keeps referring back to the Larkin case and that 1,500-foot ruling that wasn't enforceable. There's differences between the Larkin case and the issue we're experiencing on Sleepy Hollow. The Larkin case was an adult foster care home. It was an adult foster care family home, and an adult foster family group home is a residence in which the licensee must be a member of the household and an occupant of the residence. On Sleepy Hollow, it's an adult small group home, and the licensee is not required to live at the residence in that. And I have the list of the definitions, which I'm sure you guys probably have, that lists the differences between the different group homes in that. And I did find in the Fair Housing Act in section 803, where it talks about an individual owner should not own more than 3 such single family houses at any one time or gain or profit from owning those 3. I'm not quite sure how that pertains to this issue in that. It gets all the terminology and all the different conditions can get a little bit difficult to follow and understand, so I was hoping that's something that you guys could look into.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the section?
Section 803, 42U period S period C period 3603. And the title of that section is Effective Dates of Certain Prohibitions, Section B1.
Effective dates, I'm sorry, I'm trying to write this down.
Can you repeat that whole thing again?
I can just give this to you guys afterwards too. Effective dates of certain prohibitions, Section B1.
And that's out of the Fair Housing Act.
The Fair Housing Act, Section 803.
803.42.U.S.C.3603.
Yes.
Correct? Thank you.
And there's a little bit more further definition on there about how they can't profit from all these different houses and that, so.
The Fair Housing Act, you're
Yes.
talking about the
Yes.
federal Fair Housing Act.
Yes.
Okay.
like I said, it's a lot to interpret, and for the layman, it can be a little bit cumbersome to, so I'm really against appealing the 500-foot ordinance. It would result in 2 group homes on Sleepy Hollow. This is a dead-end street that consists of 5 houses. 40% of the street would consist of group homes. In my mind, that's an excessive concentration. There's already an excessive amount of vehicles that come up and down our street on a daily basis. I was almost hit the other day head-on from one of the employees driving one of the group home vans. This is continual. And if there's 2 group homes, I just cannot imagine the safety issues and everything that would be involved with just the traffic alone. Representative Riley, he sees an issue with the excessive concentration with the introduction of House Bill number 4597. I urge you to keep the 500-foot ordinance as the Brandon Township Zoning Act Section 42-2 purpose states, promoting and protecting the public health, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare of the residents, or make an amendment to the current ordinance and include in that ordinance that the owner of the home must live on site with the residents, which would make this an adult foster care family home. And that no residents with criminal backgrounds would be permitted at the residence. I think also the difference between our situation and Larkin is they weren't a dead-end street. They just didn't encompass such a small area in that, which each situation I think is different, and we're heavily impacted by this. I know you guys are talking about different settlement options, and we've discussed them before with you. 1, not letting Flat Rock open the second home. 2, not allowing residents or employees with criminal histories to live or work in the Sleepy Hollow homes, or any homes that, may be in Brandon, and being able to shut him down if he violates this part of the agreement. No drug rehabilitation or halfway house. No meeting center allowed for AFC residents from other homes to come to, and no housing for employees in addition to the 6 residents. My concerns are the owner of these group homes has been less than honest in the past, you all know that. He knowingly brought 2 sex offenders in with extensive criminal backgrounds to our neighborhood and refused to remove them when asked by the township. He didn't properly do a background check on at least 1 employee that we know of, and he was issued a violation from Lauer due to this. He hired an employee who was on probation, which is against policy. And with the settlement agreement, is we as residents going to be guaranteed that he follows this agreement? How are we going to know that the employees don't have criminal backgrounds in that? There is such a high turnover rate for employees in group homes. You would not believe the turnover rate, just what we've experienced over the year that he's been operating in that. And how do we know that these employees, this is a specialized group home, how do we know that his employees have had that additional training that they're supposed to handle these residents that require specialized group homes and that? If he's hiring somebody that's on probation and stuff like that and not doing proper background checks, how do we know they've had the proper training to handle these residents? So, yeah, those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that has a comment regarding our agenda tonight?
Just one more. I brought this up before at the last.
Could you state your name?
I'm sorry. It's William Ludwig. I live at 133 South Sashalo, Brandon Township, just down the street from all this thoroughfare. If indeed, right in all of his literature, it is to reintegrate his residents back into society, how is he going to do this? What society? The only thing around him are trees. He's already told everybody out there, as soon as the prices drop and everybody else moves out, he's gonna buy every house there. If he's allowed to put a second group home in, nobody else is gonna stay. He's gonna get his wish. And every pamphlet he's got that he publishes and puts out there, it's all about integration back in society of his residents. That can't happen for where he's at. There is no way to check up on anything he's doing inside these houses. There's no way to check on how these residents are doing. He's getting paid over $7,000 a month per resident. These are supposed to be for nonprofit. I don't think so. So, if indeed this is for reintegration back in society, there's no way this can happen. And to have another one next door? Why? It's just a money-making machine. And it's in our community. Why would we ever let that happen? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I've got four letters to read, so I'll start with comments from Tracy Morley at 327 Sleepy Hollow.
Can you forward those to us so we don't have to write down everything they say?
I can tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine,
Yeah.
just sometime, I didn't
Yeah.
mean like right this minute,
I
just
can.
sometime.
I agree,
Yeah, thank you.
I agree with that completely.
Thank you.
I don't want to be writing all this stuff down.
That's fine, I just got one probably an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, no, tomorrow's fine, just
So
that way we
I'll
have
just-
record of it, yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
yep.
Yep.
Comments? Okay. We keep hearing about the Larkin versus State of Michigan case, which determined the 1,500-foot spacing of adult foster care homes violates the Fair Housing Act. However, I feel the situation on Sleepy Hollow is different than the Larkin case. One, in the Larkin case, the adult foster care home was an adult foster care family home. An adult foster family group home is a residence in which the licensee must be a member of the household and an occupant of the residence. In an adult small group home, the licensee is not required to live in the residence and operate as a business. On Sleepy Hollow, the licensee does not live at the residence and operates the adult foster group home as a business in a residential area. In the Larkin case, the residents of the family group home were mentally ill, developmentally disabled, or physically disabled, and did not have past criminal records. The Larkin residents were not released from a correctional facility. The initial residents released to 301 Sleepy Hollow were released directly from a correctional facility and were convicted sex offenders. According to a summary from the Fair Housing Act, current users of illegal controlled substances, persons convicted of illegal manufacture or distribution of controlled substances, sex offenders, and juvenile offenders are not considered disabled under the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act affords no protection to individuals with or without disabilities who present a direct threat to persons or property of others. In the Larkin case, the family group home was not located on a dead-end lane with only 5 homes. Under Brandon Charter Township Code of Ordinances, section 4629, it states, "The purposes of the ordinances are for promoting and protecting the public's health, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare of the residents, merchants, and workers." I feel the group home located and the potential group to be located on Sleepy Hollow violates Brandon's ordinances because they do not provide public health and safety to my family or the residents of Brandon Township. Listed below are examples where this group home does not safely protect us as residents. By not living at these homes, I feel there is no vested interest in keeping my family or the residents of Brandon Township safe. My children can no longer ride their bikes and scooters on our dead-end lane due to the excessive traffic at excessive speeds. Based on my calculations, 301 Sleepy Hollow averages 12 cars per day, and on several occasions, I've been able to count 20 vehicles in the driveway at one time. I feel this is an area that should be reviewed and addressed in the ordinances. The owner of 301 Sleepy Hollow placed a known pedophile next to my children. The owner of 301 Sleepy Hollow allowed a friend to hunt within 450 feet, which is the safe zone, of our home. According to the Michigan hunting and trapping rules, no person may hunt with a firearm in a safety zone or shoot at any wild animal or wild bird within a safety zone without the written permission of the owner or occupant of the property. We did not give permission, and this individual knowingly placed our children in harm's way. 301 Sleepy Hollow received a licensing violation for improper hiring procedures because they failed to conduct the proper background check before hiring an employee to work at 301 Sleepy Hollow. The employee hired had a criminal background and should not have been hired. Therefore, again, placing my family and the residents of Brandon Township in danger. Listed below are 16 of the police case reports that I have, but there may be more. Again, these are examples of this group home placing my family and Brandon Township residents in unsafe situations. And I won't read the list. You'll see that tomorrow when I send it. I feel the township should not settle with Flat Rock, but if they were to consider a settlement, I feel at a minimum the following items should be conditions of the settlement. First, not letting Flat Rock open the second home. Next, the owner of Flat Rock should be required to live in these homes. Next, not allowing residents or employees with sexual and/or criminal histories to live or work in the Sleepy Hollow homes and being able to immediately shut down the operations if this is violated. No drug rehabilitation, halfway house. No meeting center allowed for other AFC residents from other homes to come to. No housing for employees in addition to the 6 residents. No employee housing. Both homes must have 6 or less residents. Thank you for your time and your consideration to safely protecting my family and the residents of Brandon Township. And she also.
Is there a name on the? Oh, yeah.
The next letter is from Jonathan Schechter. I am sorry I'm not able to attend tonight's meeting to speak directly and answer any questions openly and honestly, but I am away at the moment on a special assignment with the National Park Service. Please be advised that I am an adjacent property owner with the entire eastern side of the group home facility at 301 Sleepy Hollow, immediately adjacent to a section of my western property line. I strongly urge the commission to keep the ordinance in question intact and worry will happen next if he expands his business. I base this on my lack of trust in Mr. Burnett's intent and his display of contempt for me. Contempt is a strong word. Let me explain by my use of that word in as few words as possible. Months before he housed criminal sex offenders at 301 Sleepy Hollow, his contracted employees cut trees on my property over 50 feet into my property to establish their secret shooting lane for deer poaching. They also baited my property with corn and set camera traps on my property. I stumbled upon a blood trail on a snowy day that led me to the shooting lane and where a deer was dragged back to 301, and also discovered shooting slats cut in the east wall of the treehouse left by the previous owner at 301. I notified the law enforcement division of the Department of Natural Resources, and in less than 1 hour, a conservation officer arrived on scene, followed the clear blood trail of evidence leading to 301, and made contact with its employees. The officer returned the next day, searched the premises, and confiscated the deer, and the case went to the prosecutor. Why do I say contempt? Barnett was made aware of the situation, and not a single word of apology or offer to replant trees, nothing. Would you want someone who behaves in such a manner to operate a second facility? After the facility had new residents trespassing, minus the deer poaching, continued.
Okay, minus the deer poaching continued, and my newly installed security cameras captured 2 unattended residents attempting to breach my newly constructed fence. I confronted them, and they told me that they were looking for their lost phone on my property, which made no sense since it was fenced. A few days later, I discovered a cell phone well onto my property, meaning they were most likely went around the end of the fence. I shared the photos with the township supervisor and the substation of Oakland County Sheriff's Office. I turned the phone over to the Sheriff's Department, and the deputies made contact concerning the phone situation. Again, no apology from Barnett, and after I sent him a formal letter advising him that I would consider all trespassing for any purpose a criminal trespassing, he wrote back stating that he would add a fence. But as for a sincere apology for the damage done to my trees, the deer poaching, or trespassing, that never came. And that to me is contempt. Keep the ordinance.
Can I ask a question during this reading?
Well, it's citizens' comments right now, so it's really a comment period.
Okay, because that letter has been out for like over a month.
Yeah, it has.
Okay, that really is like, this is the third regurgitation of the same letter.
Okay, next is a letter from Lisa Pagano Lawrence. Dear board members, I'm writing in regards to the June 11th special meeting to discuss settlement strategy in the case of Flat Rock Manor versus Charter Township of Brandon. As a township resident and not a board member, I obviously do not know the details of the settlement being considered, but I assume, based on the proposed amendment sent to the Planning Commission on May 28th, that the board is considering removing the 500-foot ordinance that is meant to protect our township from having an excessive concentration of adult foster care facilities. Perhaps the settlement strategy should include a discussion of the proposed amendment to the Adult Foster Care Facility Licensing Act proposed by Representative Raleigh that addresses excessive concentration of such facilities. I am asking the Township Board to reconsider removing this ordinance as a settlement strategy. It is my understanding this ordinance was put in place in response to the very legitimate concern for the safety of our community. The safety concerns we have as a result of our experience with the AFC at 301 Sleepy Hollow are criminals illegally housed in the current facility on Sleepy Hollow, as well as criminal employees, illegal hunting on residential property, illegal discharge of a firearm in close proximity to an occupied residence, mentally challenged individuals having access to firearms, convicted criminals possessing or discharging a firearm, trespassing, threatening neighbors, burglary, breaking and entering, etc. Criminal residents and employees pose a serious danger to others living nearby. Individuals who have been convicted of heinous crimes are likely to be a greater threat to other residents based on the historic rates of repeat offenders. The Oakland County Sheriff's Department has publicly stated that they do not have the resources to deal with the increased problems that have arisen from the 22 facilities currently licensed in Brandon Township. I would like to ask how the Township Board would propose we deal with additional facilities that will inevitably be developed if there is no ordinance to regulate them. I am also very interested to learn how the Township will handle the increased expenses of additional police support along with decreased revenue from a declining tax base due to devaluation of township homes. With the existing ordinance, we have some hope of protecting our property values and our neighborhood from being further taken over by criminals. As it is, we have been living a nightmare for the past year. When the board put this ordinance in place, we felt there may be some hope for us to be able to live peacefully in our homes. If the 500-foot restriction is removed, it will open the door for our entire neighborhood to be turned into group homes. I would like to point out that there is a clear difference between a foster care family home, and foster care small group home. A family home is a residence in which the licensee must be a member of the household and an occupant of the residence. A small group home has no such provision. Chapter 46, Article 111-46204, Rural Estates District REB3, as listed on Brandon Township's website, and Section 46205, Single Family Residential, R1A and R1B, B2, lists a permitted uses, adult foster care family homes, foster family group homes, and family child care homes as required by Section 206 of Public Act Number 110 of 206, MCL 125.3206. It does not list adult foster care facility or foster care small group home as a permitted use. We would welcome a family home as we believe the licensee would have a vested interest in maintaining the property and the property values in such a home, as well as the additional concerns for the safety of local residents as they are also a resident. As a licensed small group homeowner, there may be no incentive to preserve property values, and there may in fact be an incentive to devalue those homes, as that may make other nearby properties more cost effective to purchase to develop more small group homes. Non-resident owners may also have no concern for the safety of local residents, as they do not have to live with their consequences of having criminals or sex offenders in the neighborhood near their children. I would also like to note that Public Act 110 explicitly states subsection 1 does not apply to adult foster care facilities licensed by a state agency for care and treatment of persons released from or assigned to correctional institutions. The Adult Foster Care Licensing Act, Act 218 of 1979, Section 400.734B states that an adult foster care facility shall not employ an individual who has been convicted of a number of crimes: patient abuse, healthcare fraud, abuse of controlled substances, cruelty, criminal sexual conduct, firearms or weapons, diversion or adulteration of a prescription drug, felony, misdemeanor, home invasion, larceny, retail fraud, etc. The AFC shall not employ any individual until it has conducted a criminal history check. It is apparent due to previous incidents at the existing AFC that criminal history checks were not properly conducted. If the ordinance must be amended, I would like to see a provision in the relevant ordinance that requires the AFC licensee to submit to the township criminal history checks for all employees to ensure compliance. We are asking that the board amends Chapter 46, Article 111, Section 46-204B3 to explicitly permit family homes and to exclude small group homes which have a licensee who is not a member of the household and not an occupant of the residence. explicitly exclude facilities licensed by a state agency that allow residents to have been released from or assigned to adult correctional institutions, as well as excluding facilities that hire criminals or ex-convicts, and to define the penalties for violating this ordinance. When amending the ordinance effective 10/22/18 to maintain the statement further provide that such facilities shall be located on a property or secondary road that is maintained by the RCOC. Explain in detail what action will be taken upon violation of this ordinance if passed. The items I would like to see addressed as part of a settlement strategy are to have a formal agreement with Flat Rock Manor that states Flat Rock will not house individuals who have been released from or assigned to adult correctional institutions. Flat Rock will not employ criminal or ex-convicts at any adult foster care facility. Flat Rock will not use any Sleepy Hollow facilities for drug rehabilitation or a halfway house. Flat Rock will not use any Sleepy Hollow facility for a meeting or recreation space for Sleepy Hollow residents or residents from any other facility. Flat Rock will not provide employee housing in addition to residents. I want to be clear that the current residents of Sleepy Hollow do not have any concerns about having mentally challenged or developmentally disabled persons living in our community. We do, however, have a very legitimate concern about having criminals as residents and or employees in the business that is located in our residential neighborhood. Please consider our concerns about amending this ordinance, as it will have a profound effect on the entire Brandon Township community. Okay, the last letter I have is from Brad Batcher. With regard to the Brandon Township Board, considering removing the ordinances like limiting group homes to no closer than 500 feet apart, I would like to voice my objections as an extremely concerned resident of Brandon Township. Last spring, when 2 parolee sex offenders were placed in 301 Sleepy Hollow, much of Brandon Township was outraged. That outrage, coupled with the efforts of our elected officials and pointed media attention, led to the removal of said criminals. Since that time, the owner of 301 Sleepy Hollow, who placed the parolee sex offenders, purchased an additional home on the street from a family who fled, and is planning on turning this acquired home into an additional group home. If he is successful, Sleepy Hollow will be a short, dead-end street of 5 homes, with 2 being group homes. I believe this ordinance was rightfully enacted and should be left in place to protect not only the remaining property owners on Sleepy Hollow, but also to protect other homeowners in Brandon Township, and additionally the residents of these and potential future group homes in our community. Flat Rock Manor, owner of 301 Sleepy Hollow, lists community integration as one of the most important aspects of behavioral health sciences. Clearly, on their website at www.flatrockmanors.com. How well can a group home be integrated into a community if every home on a dead-end street is purchased and converted into a group home? I have worked as a public servant since 2006 and have been to countless group homes in some of the wealthiest and also some of the poorest areas of Southeast Michigan. I can say that in my experience, it is abnormal for multiple group homes to be located right next to one another. I should also add that I have absolutely no prejudice against the legitimately disabled, as I have family members who may eventually need to be placed in a group home. Criminals and sex offenders are not considered disabled per the Fair Housing Act. I strongly believe the only benefit of removing restrictions on group home placement is to the group home owner operator, while simultaneously negatively impacting all other homeowners in Brandon Township by allowing an excessive concentration of group homes in a small area. This issue is such a concern that Representative Riley recently introduced House Bill 4597 to define the issue of excessive concentration of group homes. Brandon Township made a wise decision by implementing this ordinance and should not backpedal now. This ordinance could be used to assist Representative Riley in his efforts to move his bill forward at the state level. Brandon Township is ahead of the curve. The recent introduction of Representative Riley's bill again proves the necessity of this ordinance. I urge the Township Board to leave the ordinance as is unmodified. The removal of this ordinance will have far-reaching immediate consequences, not only on Sleepy Hollow, but township-wide. The next street to experience an attempt to turn a quiet, dead-end gravel road into a literal compound could be yours, should this ordinance be removed. Sleepy Hollow is not an industrial drive, and no other for-profit business would be able to operate legally on this dead-end street, as commercial businesses in residential areas are prohibited by our township ordinances. I believe through this ordinance, group homes and private residences can coexist peacefully in our community while simultaneously protecting the rights of property owners and aiding group home residents in their efforts to integrate into society, as Flat Rock Manor so clearly states on their website. Please strongly consider standing up for Brandon Township and not settling. There have been countless historic court cases won by aggressive counsel who fought for what was right instead of settling to avoid trial. Sincerely, Brad. Okay, we have another citizen. Just say resident, but I was looking for citizen, thank you. So if anyone else would like to speak during the citizens' comments on agenda items, now would be your opportunity.
Did you guys already come? I'll just, do you want me to stand up there or stand here, does it matter?
They would like you to, for filming purposes.
Yep.
Hi, joining name, address, all that. Deanna Shapori, 519 Lake Drive. Resident, 30 years, own property owner. I've been kind of following what's been going on, and I read the bill, and it sounds like if you stay within that bill and do the 500 foot, that you're still within the own state of Michigan when they're asking you to do so. For the attorney purposes, I ask that the attorney, fight on our behalf, and that as a board and as citizens of this board, the people that are here, the people that wrote letters, we're the ones that are concerned, and those are the letters that you should be following. I believe you're elected or appointed positions, and that's really important that you follow what people are asking. It's very clear if you look at what this man is doing. He's obviously, this is a money-making business for him. This is not a heartfelt matter. He's trying to help these people. He's making, was it $6,000 a person? If you do the math, and if you looked at his LinkedIn, and if you take a look at the profile and anyone that goes to work for a company like Flat Rock, and if you read what the employees are saying about his business and how he's treating these people, this is a concern for humanity. I mean, if this person truly wanted to help these people, he'd not be putting them in a cul-de-sac. He'd be out into, these people should be able to get jobs and be in an environment where they can be rehabilitated. Locking them up in an area where doesn't appear from what I'm reading on what these employees are saying about them, they're not getting the help that they need. And that's really important, especially being around, how is that going to affect our property values? What does that do for not just the community, but really for the sake of what this person, this owner of Flat Rock, and their investment people, it's not just him, it's a whole investment team. This is a money-making business. This is purely not for the best interest of these people. And that should be the ultimate concern here of our community. There's a lot more I can say, but I think everyone has already said it. And I thank you for your job. I've been on the board. I know it's a very difficult position sometimes, and it's sometimes a thankless job. It's a very important job. I've been there, and I respect you for it. And I also know that it's really important that we as Brandon citizens, that we continue to, fight for what's right, and ask our attorney who represents us, that he also fight, and however far we have to take it. We've done this before in some ways. Like I said before, when we did the porn shop that opened up down the street, and somebody had bought them out, we closed it down within like a couple of weeks. And on the sign it said closed for good, and someone crossed out the O, and it said closed for God. I mean, this is, we shouldn't let this person push us around. And if the House bill is already out there, there's obviously many other communities that are being alerted about this concern. And is it, what do they call it, condensing or clustering, what's the word they were using? However you're gonna interpret that, where multiple people are in certain areas. And he already blatantly told these homeowners that he plans to buy these houses as soon as they drop property value. He's blatantly already told people what his plans are. I don't know why we'd let anybody push anybody around, especially at just the terrible subjection of these people who are supposedly getting rehabilitated. He has more than one house here already. He already has one out here on Oakwood or Oak Hill, and he's looking at doing a third one. He's got them up here. He has them in Burton. He's doing them in places where they're rural, where people aren't going to say anything. It's not rocket science to figure it out. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I hope that our attorney will go to bat for us, and you as a board.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've heard from everyone in the audience at this point. We'll go right into our new business. The first item is our closed session. So we need a motion to move to closed session for discussion of settlement strategy in the connection with the pending case of Flat Rock Manor Incorporated versus Charter Township of Brandon. Who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Treasurer Darnell, and it is seconded by Trustee Cordella to move to closed session for discussion of settlement strategy in connection with the pending case of Flat Rock Manor Incorporated versus Charter Township of Brandon. And we need to do a roll call on that.
Allen, yes. Darnell?
Yes.
DePalma?
Yes.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes.
Rummel's absent.
Yes. Okay, motion carries unanimously. We will move into closed session. I don't know how long we'll be there, but when we get done with our discussion, we will be back in open session. So. Okay, at this time, we need a motion to reconvene our meeting.
So moved.
Support.
DePalma, Darnell, seconded.
I don't know who's going to pay us.
All right, I have a motion by Trustee DePalma to reconvene from the discussion of settlement strategy in connection with the pending case of Flat Rock Manor versus Charter Township of Brandon. And it is seconded by Treasurer Darnell. And we need to do a roll call, please.
Darnell?
Here.
DePalma?
Or yes.
Oh, yes.
I was like,
Sorry.
yes. I'm like,
Sorry.
yes.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rummel absent. Allen, yes. Thurman?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Next item is approval of the closed session minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the closed session minutes as read in a closed session?
Support.
Okay, I have a motion by Trustee Marshall, and it is seconded by Trustee DePalma to approve the closed session minutes as read in closed sessions, closed session. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Next action resulting from closed session. There is no action this evening, but our next meeting for this topic will be June 20th at 6:30 p.m. So next is citizens' comments, 3 minutes per person. I don't see any citizens here, so we can move to adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Pardon me?
Move to adjourn.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. I have a motion by trustee Marshall to adjourn the meeting, and it is seconded by clerk Allen. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say nay. Meeting's adjourned.
Very good.